What's up guys, and welcome back to Kaiyo Collabs series where I'm making a beat, sending it out to another producer to work on together and bringing you guys along for the ride. In this week's episode, I made a beat with an artist who's been a constant inspiration for me since day one, starting my journey in the lo-fi scene, and what honor it was to work with one of the biggest artists in lo-fi right now. You've already clicked on the video, so you know that of course I'm talking about Mondo Loops. So shout out to Mondo for helping out on this track. So we'll break down what I made for the track, pass it over to Mondo, who's going to break down what he added to the track. And so yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Speaking to Mondo for a little while before I sent him over this track. This is actually my second attempt at writing a track to collab with Mondo. I really wanted to make sure that I got this right. Started here where I always start with my piano chords, and I came up with these really lovely, warm, simple piano chords. Super nice. Couple of very slight variations in bars 5 through 8, but nothing too crazy at all. A little bit of a strum on the piano and a little bit of tweaking with the velocities. I'm using the Cinematic Soft Piano 50 from Spitfire Audio, which is just my favorite piano sound right now, and it's got no processing on it whatsoever. That is the raw sound. Then I added a drone sound just to help build with some of that background there, just adding some really simple sort of background noise to the track. Just helping to fill some of that space in those long drawn out chords. Speaking of filling space within the chords, I then added another piano. So we've got this second piano arp that is just playing the same two notes as the drone, just adding a little bit of movement and filling some of the space. From there, I wanted to build in some more, so I added just this really simple guitar part. Layered in another guitar arp here. Just playing a couple of different arps on the guitar there, and then finally layered that with a guitar melody on top. If we put everything together, we get the guitar fading in, the other two guitars coming in for the what I'm imagining is the first sort of like hook to the track. So you can hear with the guitar there, I kind of wanted to follow that long drawn out piano chords with some of those guitar notes. Obviously wanted to fill some of that space melodically, but I also wanted to keep this really laid back and really chilled out. Final two things that I added here was a nice sub bass, just filling out that lower register. And that's just following the chords exactly. And then one last kind of ambient guitar arp that I just introduced to keep the guitar parts differing in this main hook section. So where one moves out, the next one comes in. Just signifying the next section of the song, and then you can use those different parts to kind of move from section to section, and then that part won't get too stale if we keep that in for like 16 bars and then we swap back to the other part. Just really helps with the movement and the flow of the track. Once I had all of those pieces, I arranged it into a really simple song structure, and in that bridge section just added a variation on the piano. So we initially start with a doubling up of the piano chords. This is a whirly sound, just adding some warmth and some electronic piano sound to the track. After 4 bars, the whirly starts kind of expanding on those chords. And then after that, I just put in the very basic core structure of the track for 8 bars. And then I sent this over to Mondo and just left him a ton of space to do whatever he wanted to do with the track. So yeah, over to you, Mondo.
What's up everyone, and big thanks Kaiyo for featuring me on this video. I go by the name of Mondo Loops, and I'm also a producer and content creator in the lo-fi scene. I've also got a YouTube channel where I make tutorials, track breakdowns, and all sorts of other content as well. And me and Kaiyo actually made a video over on my channel breaking down a similar track a little while ago as well, if anyone's interested in checking that out. So this was a really nice track to work on, and I'm excited to show you what I did with it. I am in Ableton for any of you FL Studio people. However, most of the stuff I use is external VSTs anyway, so it's all pretty interchangeable. So yeah, just going to dive into the track. So these are just Kaiyo's stems. I did a little bit of mixing on each track just to make them all fit together, a little bit of surgical EQing, and I grouped all the guitars together just so I could process them as one, glue them together a little bit. So to glue them together, I used a Lux, which is by Cleverground Audio. It's a sort of one knob compressor plugin, and it's just great at adding a bit of compression, a bit of saturation. It's sort of making its way onto most of my tracks at the minute, and it's quite a cheap one as well. On the other end of the spectrum, Altiverb is not a cheap one at all. I've got a trial of it at the minute, so I'm testing it out on each track, and it's a fantastic convolution reverb, but it's outlandishly expensive. But I'm using the Tracking Room Nashville IR response on the guitars. I'm just cutting out this frequency here, just because it's a little bit muddy. So I've got the guitars, the drone, the piano. Again, I did some mixing on the piano, just to cut out some of the resonance with the surgical EQ. Got a whirly there, and the bass was also from Kaiyo. Really smooth bass on this. So what I did first was just brighten up a little bit with some atmosphere. So I used 2 ambiances from my Sleepy Lo-Fi drum kit. One was this Tokyo tape, which is a recording I got in Tokyo of just some background chatter, and mixed a bit of vinyl with that. And I've also got this Forest Nights on vinyl, which is like owls and birds and forest noises, again mixed with vinyl. So just adds a little bit of shimmer to the background. Next up, to finish off the instrument bus, firstly I added a bit of a top line guitar. Sounds like this. So essentially I'm going through the Amplitude 4, like a Fender model, clean American, and then I'm going into a couple of reverbs. I've got a Dark Hall, a Convolution, and a Spaced Out. Spaced Out's a really nice shimmery reverb from Baby Audio. Would recommend checking it out. So I'm sort of mimicking the general riff from the intro, and then on this section I freestyle a little bit more. I also layer up some vocals which sound like this. So there's a few things going on here. These two are just single notes with pitch bend, and I'm using the sleep tapes from Slate Nash Auras to do them. I've also got a few simple lines as well from a flute and from a vocal. So I love the Spitfire Audio original stuff. They're about $30 each, and there's some great plugins in there. So I'm using the Speculative Memories from your ear Elazar Glotman for the whisper tone vocal, which you can hear, which is panned a little bit left. And then I'm also using a Oliver Patrice Pool project. This one's got some great vocals as well, but I'm using it for the flute, which you can hear come in occasionally. It sounds very vocally ethereal anyway, so it works great with vocals. Then I added more of a prominent vocal. Again, another Spitfire Audio Originals from Alive Lens. So I'm just cutting the highs, cutting the lows. Could use an EQ for that, but I often use auto filter just for speed. I'll leave an 8 on there again. This one has got the giant pyramid IR, which is a really interesting reverb response, and Portal, which is giving it a sort of granular delay with this sleep cycles preset. So these are the sort of one shots. Nice ambient vocal to complement the more sort of pad-like vocals. Not doing anything, so I'll delete that. And I've got this little piano melody that plays when the sort of second half kicks in. So onto the drums. With the drums, because of the way the track starts, it sort of feels like that's the one rather than that being the one. So I took that to here. It starts now rather than starting, say, here. So for that, I've just got a shimmery sort of ride cymbal that blends nicely into the rest of the drums. So starting from the top of the drum bus, I've got this, which is a snare. So this is Addictive Drums, doing a bit of low pass on there. I'm using their Soul kit, which is really nice. It's got some nice snares, some nice cymbals. Great kit overall. So I'm using that for the sort of snare groove. I'm using a second Addictive Drums for a little bit of a shimmery ride. So that's just got some reverb on there. I've got a third instance of Addictive Drums, which is for this like delayed cymbal, which helps transition. And I sort of do the same after the break as well. I've got a little bit of Foley. So these again are from my Sleepy kit, which I got the ambience from. These are just straight up Foley loops that I drop in, filter out the frequencies that I want, and then layer that in with the rest of the track. And I've also made a group, which is most of the hi-hats and those sort of textures, just because that gets filtered quite a lot. So it filters up now, and then it filters off as we get towards the break, and then it sort of slowly filters up again as we get towards the sort of final section. It's filtering up, bringing it up slowly, just introducing the highs, and then it's all in. So this bus is just mostly got some brush samples, a clock sample, which again is from my Sleepy kit, little hi-hat loop, which is from Splice, the Lex SL84 hat loop, and another brush sample. And on the drum bus, I've got a radiator, which is from Soundtoys, just a little bit of a analog amp. Again, I've got Lux, this time using the Finesse mode. There's two modes, Finesse and Lux mode. Finesse is just a little bit brighter. That's the filtering that I'm doing, just to tail it off towards the end for this final outro. And usually I cut the lows as well. You can probably go a bit higher than that just to make sure there's no unnecessary information going into the master. A little bit of convolution reverb, which comes in for this ambient intro as well. So I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I'm going to bounce the stems and send it back to Kaiyo and see what he does with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a crazy amount going on this track, but I really like it. It's got quite a nice, catchy, sort of repetitive melody, which I tried to emulate a bit further on as well. The sort of main melody comes from Kaiyo's guitar loop here, which I try and copy a similar sort of thing later on in the track. It's such a nice little melody. So yeah, big thanks Kaiyo for having me on this track, and back over to you.
And that is just sounding so nice. Just shout out one more time on Mondo Loops for agreeing to be on this track with me. I think it is sounding awesome. It's sounding so good. I'm really happy with the way this track came together. So let me know in the comments if you think we should drop this one. I'm really enjoying the way it's sounding. Do with a couple of finishing touches, obviously a final mix and a master. If you want us to drop this one, put a comment on this video if you want us to drop this, and if this video gets to 50 likes, then I'll chat to Mondo and maybe we'll arrange dropping this track. Now, if you've liked this video, we did a very similar video over on Mondo's channel, so head over there and check that out, where we made a track in the reverse order. Mondo started it and then sent it over to me. That track also came out awesome, so maybe we'll drop both in the future. I don't know. If you guys have any ideas of producers that you want to see on this series and producers you want to see me work with, let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram if you're a producer yourself and up for being on one of these videos. That's all for Kaiyo Collabs episode 3. In the next episode, I've got a really special guest, one that I'm super excited about. So keep your eyes peeled. Next month's video is going to be really cool. Peace out.